Good afternoon, everybody. As already mentioned, I'm Jeremy, and I'm a freelance data scientist. Now I run my own company called Datacove. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner here. Yes, I designed that logo by myself, which is why it looks absolutely terrible, because I am a data scientist, not an artist, not a designer. I analyze data. And I've probably been analyzing data for most of my 15+ year career now. And so, as you can imagine, in that time, I've hired and mentored lots and lots of data scientists or data analysts who are in very different stages of their careers. So some people will be more advanced in what they're doing, and some people will be kind of juniors or even graduate level data analysts, data scientists. And I've helped them in their journey, work them towards the positions that they're in now. And a lot of them are kind of managers or even in even more flourishing roles in top organizations in data science. And I wanted to share with you today just a little bit about how I've done that, give you a few tips and tricks of what to look out for in companies and in mentors, but also in terms of the soft skills that you need to be a data scientist. I think that everyone in the room today is probably aware of all the technical and the harder skills that you need, but the soft skills are almost equally, if not more important. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about them. And I'll talk to you for 15-20 minutes or so, and then we'll have a more open Q&A session. So do feel free to ask any question. As people always say in data science, no questions are stupid questions. So feel free to ask anything, and I will do my best to answer all of them. If I don't know the answer, don't worry, I won't sit and ramble on for 5 or 10 minutes and make it up. I will tell you that I don't know the answer, but feel free to ask anything at the end. So as I said, I'm Jeremy Horne. I would call myself a mathematician and statistician as much as I would call myself a data scientist. And what I mean by that is that's what I've been doing at heart for probably most of the past 15 years. I graduated in maths, stats and economics from the University of London in 2005. Talk to you more about that in a second or two. And I'm a freelance data scientist, but also data strategist. And probably that bit of the term is not something that you hear very often. But most of what I've been doing for 15 years is helping people with the reams of data that they're now collecting and storing in databases, and helping them use that in smarter ways, whether it's streamlining their data sets, making predictions from it, or just understanding it a little bit better. And I know this probably will go down like a lead balloon because I've heard you're Python coders, but I'm an R coder. I code in R. Everything I do is within R. There are room for Python people around me. I do actually have friends that are Python coders. I don't banish them to the other end of society. So you can talk about Python. I won't run away at the end of this, but I'll just go on and say, oh God, what a load of Python coders I've just spoken to. And just to prove it, I have loads and loads of R stickers here as well. All of the R packages, all of your favorites. Got Haven, we've got DevTools there, beautiful London R. Go through my R sticker collection. A lot of you will probably know stickers are quite big to our users. And in fact, stickers are quite big in my house. My 4-year-old, who is probably the youngest person I've coached in R and data science, steals all of my R stickers. And he is probably the only person that started to learn to code in R at the age of 2, no joke. As you probably gathered, I can talk about R all afternoon. Don't worry, I'm not going to, because I know you're all away being coders. I do have things that I like outside of data science and R. I'm a mad cricket fan. Very upset I didn't get to see any cricket over the summer because of COVID, but hopefully we'll come back stronger next year. You can probably tell from behind me, I'm a mad football fan as well, Liverpool FC, current reigning Premier League champions. And I think with all of that, being a lover of sports and cricket and football and stats and numbers, I do like a bit of a gamble. I'm obviously not a very good gambler because I'm sitting here in this box room of my house talking to you and not on a Caribbean island where the temperature is 10 times what it is in Brighton today. But hopefully with better data, I'll improve my gambling as well. And just the other thing to mention on the R front, you'll see this beautiful orange Brighton R logo in the bottom right-hand corner. So I'm the co-runner of Brighton R, Brighton's premier, only R user group, open to all people on the south coast, but expanding due to COVID. So we will have people from London, in fact, Barcelona, and I think Belgrade or somewhere like that coming to our event next week. We have got a fantastic Brighton R event arranged for next week, all virtual, all free. Do feel free to get in touch with me afterwards, and you'll be more than welcome to come and join and come and see what the dark side looks like away from Python. Anyway, lots more R logos for you. This will make it even better. Just to give you a little bit about my career, as I said, I graduated in 2005, And at the time, or at the time of my graduation, I was also running an unofficial website for Middlesex Cricket Club. Told you I love cricket a fair bit. And we would run events in the off season for cricket fans, because cricket fans get really depressed when it's cold, rainy, miserable, dark. So we would bring people together. And one of the people that came to our event was the owner or director of the ZN Group, a leading commercial think tank in the city. And we spoke for several months. And then on a very hot day in July, one summer during a cricket match, he said, look, you've graduated now. Why don't you come and work for us for 6 weeks? We've got some data sets that we need to analyze. We're doing some cutting edge things with machine learning. And guess what? In 2005, machine learning was not a thing. So it was, they were doing all this really cool stuff. Come and work for us for 6 weeks. As you can see from the timeline, it was one of the longest 6 weeks of my life, because 9 years later, I walked out of that job. There was evidently a lot more data to analyze than they first thought. But I spent a lot of time learning, particularly learning R as well. So I went into that job. R wasn't a big thing in 2005. I self-taught myself R, and I'll talk to you about that in a second or two. But also a lot of the analytical techniques and the softer skills that we'll talk about today. And I suppose after 9 years, I wanted a little bit of a change. A big project that I was working on was coming to an end. So I thought, well, what's next? What else can I do? Where else can I apply data and analytics? And marketing and advertising were becoming bigger and bigger. If you think about the evolution of digital and all those ads you see when you're surfing the internet and all you want to do is read an article, but 10 ads come up instead. So I thought, well, the marketing field looks like a good place to be. And I joined MEC, who are now Wavemaker, part of the Group M Media Group, in 2014. And the remit there was they were spending a lot of time sorting and reporting data, but not enough time understanding it and analyzing it. And so I was there to build a new team, really more around the predictive modeling element. They wanted to spend a bit less time reporting data, so how could we automate that? But also bring in people to really understand and really give people a little bit more information on what they should be doing next. And so I built a team, hiring a few grads in, hiring a few more experienced people in. I'll talk about the skills in a second or two. And then you'll kind of notice quite a few career changes and hops since 2005. In the media industry, no one lasts more than 2 years in a job, mainly because all of the clients tender out their media, it moves to another agency, and so half the staff move with it. That's not the reason I moved, but I fancied a new challenge. And MC&C, sounding remarkably similar to MEC, that confused everybody when I moved jobs. They were looking for somebody to build a new element of their data team in 2017. They were really good at the marketing analytics side, the Google Analytics, getting information out of ad servers and advertising providers, but not so good at working with first-party data. So I came in to build that first-party data and customer data offering with them. And again, did something similar for Rocket Mill from 2019. So you notice 2 year stint, well, 2 year stint at MC&C. They're now the Kite Factory, by the way. So if you try and Google them, you won't find them. I have this tendency to work for companies that like to rebrand. And I decided to move on to Rocket Mill mainly because I moved from London to Brighton in kind of 2018 between that stint. And 1 year of Southern Rail, if you've read, is more than enough for anybody. And then obviously COVID hit and we all got locked down, and I spent a lot of time sitting, working for Rocket Mill, but almost working siloed on my own at home, and had quite a few people come to me and say, oh, would you consider doing some freelance work? And so for the past couple of months, I've literally been freelance working, or probably working as on my own as I was working at home for Rocket Mill, but starting and launching my own company. And all of that is kind of underpinned by the R environment, and I'm learning more and more in R each day. And I suppose really the key question is how, well, you probably ask, how did I learn? Because I've been learning, or I've been working in R for 15 years, but actually I've changed it here to how do I learn? Because I feel that as a coder and a programmer, you're always learning. And people often say to me, well, you must be an expert by now. You've been working in R for 15 years. And to be quite honest with you, I'm never going to be an expert, even if I've been coding in R for 40 years. And that's because the market evolves and it moves so much. There are new packages, there are new algorithms that people are developing every day. And if I took even just 1 week out of coding within R, or understanding data science, or not reading blogs, then I'd probably be a lot further behind in the market. But there are really useful resources. Obviously, we all know about Google, and we've probably all had I don't know how to build this model. Let's do a quick Google search and see what I can find. We've probably all been in that position before. And it kind of takes you to Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is brilliant now. In 2005, when I was learning R, I wish Stack Overflow was brilliant because it was serviced by probably the rudest people in the entire world, that you would post a question on there and say, I've got a problem doing this. Nowadays, you probably get an answer in 3 minutes. But in 2005, about 3 months later, somebody would answer your question and say, you're an absolute fool. How do you not know how to do this already? So I really wish I had the current day Stack Overflow when I was learning in 2005. And, you know, whether it's R or Python or whatever, I would strongly recommend using that when you've got a problem. Slack, if we look at the bottom right-hand corner here, is also really, really helpful. Slack, which you may or may not have used before, you can use it in internal environments for kind of messaging people or sharing articles around a big group of individuals. But there are brilliant data science and, R for data science as well. I'm sure there's a Python equivalent Slack groups out there where people can post problems and solutions and say, look, here's something I've worked through recently, thought this might benefit the group. So Slack's a really useful space, and I'd encourage you all to look for some Slack channels that actually give you a little bit of information about the subjects that you're most interested in. And of course, Meetup's really useful now, potentially more because of the COVID age than anything. Everything's kind of gone virtual and online, so you can literally go to a meetup anywhere from the comfort of your own front room. But it's really good to go to the meetups. They're free and they can often teach you a lot. So there'll be people that are sharing talks. It'll all be fairly informal. Again, if you think about it as a free event, people are presenting for free as well. They're quite happy and willing to share their stories. And of course, the networking that you can do afterwards, which sadly we can't do much of at the moment, is invaluable in teaching you new things and talking to new people. And I think you guys nowadays have probably more than I did back in 2005. We didn't have things like Coursera and Datacamp, where we had free or relatively inexpensive courses that enabled us to understand more about rather technical things or specific subjects around data science. And I think these are really, really useful. And not that I've done any of them myself, but I have mentored quite a few people that have said these courses have been really useful and instrumental in them growing their careers. So I've mentioned mentoring people before, and I kind of think this quote encapsulates a lot of what I've done over the past few years. And it's all about nurturing talent and giving people confidence. And I would say there's two reasons for that. The first reason is because of where I've got to today, I feel it's only fair that I give back to the community and try and help people build the career that I've managed to build for myself. But on kind of a second string, the reason I want to help people grow and I want to nurture people is because it's kind of two fingers up to all of the bad managers that I've had over my career. All the people that didn't help me develop and made me do it myself. And I feel I definitely don't want to be one of those people. I want to help other people and make them into the person that I am today. And there's ways in which I do that, but I suppose it's almost quite difficult from the outside to understand what good is. So what should I look for in a company? What should I look for in a mentor to know that I'm really going to be able to grow my career? And I think there's four things to look for when you're looking at organizations and looking at teams. The first thing is you really want a team that's going to invest in your personal development, so in your learning and in your training opportunities, so that allows you to go on training courses, but also training courses that are going to develop you not just from a data science perspective, but also in terms of data storytelling as well. Data modeling is one thing, but you need to be able to tell the story through that model of what's happening with data. I think the second thing here is autonomy. And when I talk about autonomy, it's sort of not having that man management approach. When you're looking at data science and data problem solving, whatever you want to call it, these things take time. You're not going to build a model tonight to solve a problem tomorrow. And models can often take 2, 3, even more weeks to be able to build and fine tune and get all of the information out of. And you want someone that says to you, look, here's the challenge. I need you to build a solution for it, but I want you to go away and work with me to build a solution, but I'm not going to tell you everything that you need to do. You're going to be able to sit there and use a little bit of your own initiative to kind of feed through this solution that we deliver at the end of the project. And I think through all of that, regular dialogue is important as well. And that's not just regular dialogue with your mentor or with your manager, but it's regular dialogue with peers, with people in external parts of the organization. So when your teams get together, perhaps for a team meeting, to share a recent project that they've worked on, this is what was really good about it, and these were the challenges and what I'd do better next time. Lunch and learns are really good, so look out for organizations talking about how they inspire people through either lunch and learns or company events or company meetings to share stories. You want people that are really happy to get together and share. You'll often find with data people that everyone wants to sit in the corner on their own and keep their own challenge to themselves. But the more you share and the more you talk, the more you're going to learn as well. I would also say find a mentor, find somebody that's going to challenge you. So when I say challenge you, it's not just they give you a problem and you go away and work on it. They give you a challenge and you can work together in going through a solution. So you're probably thinking, that's brilliant, that's great, I know what I need to look for, but how am I going to succeed? What are the softer skills that I need to be able to, go into an organization and hit the ground running from day one? And I'd say the most important thing, particularly with data science, is being a problem solver. So with anything that you'll probably talk about within the data field, somebody will come to you with, here's our challenge. And you've got to hypothesize what a potential solution to that challenge might be, and then use data to either prove or disprove that hypothesis. But essentially, all it is one problem that you've got to solve with data. So don't really think about an algorithm, think more about how am I going to solve this problem? And there are ways in which you can do that. What you won't see is a lot of people get into a room and somebody sit down and say, right, let's talk about data and modeling. Let's talk about data. Not a lot of conversations start with, let's talk about data. But they'll often start with, well, let's talk about your challenge. Let's talk about what problem that you've got, what business problem that you're struggling to solve. If you think about businesses, they might have a monthly board meeting. And there'll be somebody that goes into that board meeting on a monthly basis, and they'll be asked two or three things. And they'll be asked about profits, and they'll be asked about revenues and retention. It's all about numbers that basically tell you the health of the business. And one of those might be a challenge to them. How do I retain my customers? And it's all about questioning. So when you walk into rooms, don't start talking about data and modeling, but talk about business challenges and ask lots and lots of questions. The more questions that you ask as data professionals, the better you understand what the challenge is and the better solution that you can offer. You'll automatically know exactly what kind of model or what solution, what they need to be able to build in order to work through and solve this challenge. And in asking questions, make sure you're listening a lot as well. So silence is actually quite important in this, but listening is equally as important. Ask the questions and listen to every word of their challenge and take it down and ask more questions and ask questions of the questions. And what's really good about that is the more you question somebody on what their challenge is, the more they almost sell the solution to themselves that you're going to build for them. So it makes your life as a data scientist or a data analyst a lot easier because you're asking question after question. They almost convince themselves that they need a statistical model, and you say, that's brilliant, this is how I can build it for you. But it's also about being really careful as well. And this is probably the difficult thing because you spent the last few weeks working with really hardcore, crazy technical data science techniques. And actually you don't want to be too technical. When you're talking to people, particularly people in an organization, about 1% of people will understand exactly what you're talking about. 1% of people will understand data and data science and statistical models and statistical tests and regressions and any other buzzword that you can put in. But most of the people won't. They just want a solution. They want you to solve a problem for them. So there's no point, or there's very little benefit to going in and talking about this amazing machine learning model you can build with, crazy kernels and error parameters, and you're going to try and optimize the epsilon. No one's going to want to hear things like that. They just want to know that you can build a statistical model or a model that gives them a solution to their problem. So be careful with your technical talk. It's great around data people and great around peers, but you've got to be really careful when talking to others within organizations as well. And I think it really helps if you know the company that you're working with. So this could even be for companies that you're looking to go and interview at. Really know that company inside out. Who are they? Who are their clients? Who do they work with? What products and solutions do they offer? Really know a company not just the company that you work for, but also maybe the clients of that company, so that when you go in and talk to them, you understand what their problems might be before you've had that initial conversation. And knowing the industries that you work in also helps you understand what the data might look like and the challenges that might come with it. And I think lastly, and possibly even most importantly, is building yourself a brand. And this is something that's really important to me. And perhaps because I've worked in media for the last 6 years, brand building is something that's been etched in my brain. But I think it's really important, particularly nowadays, particularly in the COVID times that we're in. There are so many people out there looking for data roles and looking for roles in data science that if you think about 100 CVs coming through the door on day one for a job application, you need that point of difference. So things like having a GitHub page where you can post your code, or you can post the work that you've done, or writing a blog about the work you've done, or even having your own YouTube channel, which is something I've started doing as part of my own business. It just gives you that point of difference. It gives somebody something to look at, a bit more tangible than a bit of paper. And I found it really impressive when I've interviewed people, and let's say you've got 5 people coming through the door on a particular day, and one of them comes in and says, look, here's a project that I've worked on. And I had one guy, this is going back a few years, and he said, look, I bought a house and I've really found the house buying process and looking for properties and negotiating, I found it really difficult. So I went into I think it was the Rightmove or the Zoopla API, pulled out a load of data to help me understand that process a bit more. I built this shiny app within R, and it just made me think, you love this enough to go and do that in your own time. You've got a passion. I know what you're all about, and you stand out to me more than any other candidate that I've spoken to. Talking of speaking, I have probably rambled on for long enough now about data science, and I said I would open the floor to questions. I'd be really happy to hear from any of you afterwards. Doesn't have to be today. If you wanted to come to me in a month or so and say, look, I've got this challenge, or I'm looking to get into a particular organization, do feel free to get in touch with me. There's lots and lots of different ways to do it. You can do it via my LinkedIn profile. I have my own website, which I built myself within R. And obviously all sorts of other social medias. Do come and follow me on YouTube as well. Give my channel some love. Always appreciate things like that. You can find lots of R code on my GitHub page. There will never be any Python code on there. Very, very sorry about all of that. But I think it's probably a good point now to kind of open the floor. And as I said, ask anything that you want, anything that's on your mind. No question's a stupid question. So thanks very much for listening, and feel free to ask away.